Welcome back, fellow warriors, to the stage of history. My name is Cosmo Jazz, and we are here with something kind of special, really. It's been a long time since we've had some Team 4-Star Dragon Ball stuff in this kind of way, where they've done some clips from the Buu Saga, apparently. But, a little bit of context of why I'm doing it this way for the reaction. When I first saw this, it was kind of like on my Twitter account, where I was seeing like little clips here and there of like them doing stuff. And I wasn't sure it was actually them. I thought it was just somebody doing some kind of dub over them for it. And then the more I looked into it, the more I found out that this was actually from a recording, not a recording, but from a video of a guy named Totally Not Mark, who did a whole review on the Buu Saga in tandem with like helping with everything the Team 4-Star did in unison collaboration. That's the word I was looking for, collaboration. And I've seen that most reactors have just done the Team 4-Star part to it. But to me, and nothing against those other reactors or anything like that, I don't want to cause any drama or anything, but I don't feel it's right to just take those parts out and then just watch them as they are. So what I'm going to try to do is watch this whole video by Totally Not Mark, and then we'll just see things as they go along. And and hopefully he doesn't mind me reacting to this. If he does, I'll totally take it down, and then we'll just do what everybody else was doing. But yeah, I'm gonna break this up into parts because it is like an hour and something long. Actually, let me check. Hour and 31 minutes long. So I'm going to try to see if I can break it up to like 30 minutes each. And then, let's just see if we enjoy this and stuff with it, huh? Because I'm interested to seeing what his thought process is on the Buu Saga, which is probably one of the more controversial things in Dragon Ball Z, I would say. But hey, what do I know? Let's get into this. 3, 2, 1, let's go.
Over the last month or so, I've released 3 feature-length reviews expressing what exactly
Nice.
I love about Dragon Ball Z in excruciating detail, examining everything from the thrilling Saiyan invasion, the chilling Frieza saga, and the massive but widely acclaimed Android and Cell arcs, the latter of which acted not only as the coronation of Gohan as the Earth's new primary defender, but the conclusion to a story that many widely considered Akira Toriyama's finest work, his magnum opus, one that exposed the complexities of this story, its highs, and the subtle genius behind the mind that helped to bring it all together.
Yes,
and
sir.
now for his final arc, the culmination to over a decade's worth of expertly written manga. Where does Akira Toriyama want to take us?
Faster than a speeding bullet.
That's funny.
More powerful than a locomotive. Able to leap tall buildings at a single bound. The infant of Krypton is now the man of steel.
The Great Saiyaman?
You know the funny thing is, if it was actually portrayed like this, it'd probably be cooler than it actually was.
Wait, Gohan, your lunch! Sorry, it's just that the Venn diagram of supply chains for prison and school cafeterias is basically a circle.
Thanks, Mom. You're the best.
And sorry you have to travel 600 miles to school.
It's all right. I've got the coolest ride in my grade. Nimbus!
That is a pretty cool ride to
Later,
have.
Mom.
Always listen to your teachers, and remember, all women are liars, and you'll always be my baby, and you'll never grow up! When can I go to school? When your father comes home.
After
Wow,
what has been an
okay.
exceptionally long stretch of increasingly more severe and serious stories told, this small prelude to the upcoming material is
What a
perhaps the
start.
most refreshing palate cleanser the series has to offer. And while it does feel somewhat strange for reasons I will absolutely get to later, I think it's clear that this is Akira Toriyama at his most unbridled in a very long time, creating an arc that shares more in common with the first arc of Dragon Ball than perhaps any other. And it is that very aspect of this arc that, in my opinion, makes it on a meta level the single most fascinating introduction any Dragon Ball arc has to offer, forcing me to examine not just how the plot functions, but additionally why this path was chosen at all for these characters. Having been thrust through the exciting Tenkaichi Budokais of Dragon Ball's past, all the way through to the Cell Saga material, there's been what has felt like a gradual increase in stakes, emotional or otherwise, and yet here we are, going to school, stepping in to stop street-level crime, hiding our secret identities and exploring a budding cat-and-mouse game / romantic relationship with Videl. Why? This shift in approach and atmosphere is so dramatic, so drastic, so sudden, it seems impossible to consider that it came about unconsciously, and I don't think it did. It's almost like a soft reset for the series, consciously and structurally distancing itself from what came so naturally before. And for me, this complicates things. Typically in these reviews, I write in a rather straightforward or chronological manner, examining plot beats as they occur while moving towards an obvious and compelling goal. It allows the videos to feel nostalgic and affords me a built-in structure from which to review the show from, thus allowing me more time to look under the hood. And for the most part, every arc up until now has rather quickly established their goals. The 23rd Tenkaichi Budokai begins, and we know that defeating Piccolo is the goal. The Saiyan Saga kicks off with Raditz, and through that we learn of Vegeta and Nappa. Almost every single arc in the series, old and new, assumes a similar structure, but this arc stands out from the crowd. And in many respects, I think the tonal shift is perfect. After the non-stop sprint from Raditz to Cell we've just endured for 3 arcs straight, we've finally been afforded the chance to just enjoy a moment of peace. The very peace we've so feverishly been fighting for all of this time with these characters. And with these reintroductions to old characters, we get to explore brand new ones in ways we haven't had a chance to since the beginning of this story. It's a very slice of life, enjoyable and light affair. However, there is one element that forces it to feel dramatically different to even the comparatively light and fun first arc of Dragon Ball. And that difference is Toriyama's choice of main character.
I still remember the first time I saw that.
Son Gohan. It should come as no
It's like, okay,
surprise
he's a
to
Jedi
anyone
now.
that this story pivots in a rather Goku way. What begins as a wholesome and slice-of-life tale of Gohan navigating his responsibilities as the Earth's hero in the big bad city quickly switches gears to something far more familiar once a certain tournament is announced in the story. And I'll even acknowledge that when reading along, this might feel somewhat fine, if not almost unnoticeable. However, when your job is to analyze stories like mine is, you start to notice a few things. And what I noticed was a pivot so seismic that it dwarfs, in my opinion, every other pivot observed in the prior arc. While the Cell Saga had to deal with course corrections, simple changes to a plan that ultimately led to the same goal that he had always planned for,
What a
this
story
arc
behind
sees
that.
Toriyama shift the very foundations he spent so long establishing. And unfortunately, there's quite a lot of controversy surrounding this creative choice. So, in the name of objectivity, I'll try to present the available and limited information for you first and foremost, before offering my own 2 cents on the matter later. At the fore of this new material following the 7-year time skip, on chapter 421, Akira Toriyama addresses his readers on the title page saying, Dragon Ball will continue for just a tad longer. From now on, taking the place of the late Goku as the main character will be his serious-minded son, Son Gohan. Looking at this, it's clear that Akira Toriyama wanted everyone to know from the outset that Gohan was taking Goku's place. He even seems to be on some level excited. As another quote taken from the very issue of Shonen Jump this was released within says, "At last, the story has begun with Gohan as the main character. Even I, the author, am looking forward to seeing what will happen." Given the fitting and emotional exit Goku was offered as a character, it seems reasonable to conclude that this was a fresh start in many respects for the series. Opportunities abound to go in interesting new directions free of the familiar and into a bold new direction. And this sudden shift is evidenced even further through the anime, opting to leave behind the longtime iconic Chala Head Chala theme song in favor of the new We Gotta Power musical track. And this was a shift in musical opening that hadn't been seen since the transition of Dragon Ball to Dragon Ball Z in the anime. However, with the benefit of
Holy
hindsight,
crap.
we
I
can tell
didn't
that
even
this
realize
vision,
that.
if you could even call it that, didn't last. Many have speculated as to the reasoning why. However, the only explanation offered by Akira Toriyama has been, and I quote, "I intended to put Gohan into the leading role. It didn't work out. I felt that compared to Goku, he was ultimately not suited for the part." And so, that's it. He wasn't suited to the role. People have offered their own speculations as to why, citing Gohan's popularity or lack thereof as one of many possible explanations, forcing Toriyama to yield his vision to appease fan outcry. However, I don't think this was the case. So why do I think Akira Toriyama pivoted? Well,
Who in the
I
world?
think it
I
involves
totally forgot
something
about
far
that.
more mechanical and foundational within the story's narrative itself. At numerous instances throughout this arc, but mostly within these early chapters, there are gags that otherwise wouldn't fit in the more serious Dragon Ball Z material, but can find footing here. Gohan literally looks into the camera and talks to the readers directly, breaking the fourth wall for the sake of a joke, and that light-hearted atmosphere is all over this area of the story. And truth be told, I actually loved reading through this section. There are heaps of fun character interactions, a fish-out-of-water storyline with Gohan trying to fit in at school, and of course a very enjoyable dynamic established between Gohan and Videl. Between putting out fires in downtown, narrowly saving hundreds from a potential plane crash, and stopping bank robbers single-handedly, Satan City, and maybe Earth itself, has found a new hero. And that hero's name is...
The Great Saiyan Man.
Oh my god, is the part of his name? What is he, a rapper?
That voice.
It's a weird name for a superhero.
I think it's kind of cool.
Of course you do, you're hill folk.
Sharpener!
Irasa, he knows I love him. Gohan, you know I love you.
I guess.
He's a menace. A superhuman wannabe hero enforcing his justice on my city. Unlike you, who enforces your justice on your dad's city. I'm different. He's working outside of the law. I work with the police.
Oh, and that makes you the good guy.
What does that mean?
It means you're my favorite Nepo baby Videl, and I love you.
However, I don't think this is what makes this
Okay, I
arc
love that
feel
they've done with
different.
Sharpener.
None of this is emblematic of whatever ultimately pushed Toriyama into a different direction, but I think I know what is. You see, Dragon Ball has worked a very specific way with high-energy characters exacting their agency upon the plot, moving it forward. Characters like Goku and Vegeta fit this billing. They can react to things, certainly, but they also drive the plot forward through their own internal desires, through their own active decisions. Goku by consistently seeking out stronger and stronger opponents, and Vegeta through wanting to prove to himself and to others that he's the most powerful in existence. Due to the desires of these two characters, quite a few exciting story beats found their footing in this long and winding tale that without them wouldn't have been as exciting. And that's what makes these characters compelling to follow. Simply put, they make the plot happen. When they are on screen, you know we are going to be advancing the plot and not marinating in the current circumstances, waiting around for someone else to act. However, it should be emphasized that this does not mean that active characters are better suited to the main character role over reactive ones. It depends entirely on the genre and context of the story that you're trying to tell. Spider-Man, as well as many other superhero films that have met great critical acclaim, are obvious examples of stories with main characters that are oftentimes more reactive than active, and it
Fair
works
enough.
exceptionally well for those stories. And this is clear not just in this arc, but even in all the material that came before
Which is
it.
so
Gohan is
interesting,
a character that requires support
because
from
Gohan
others,
ends
a
up
cause
becoming
that
kind
can
of a
ignite fire
superhero.
within him to fight with. That aspect of his character is the reason the ending of the prior arc concluded in the fashion it ultimately did, and is the reason so many people love Gohan. Gohan offers the power and ability, all the while Goku and Vegeta provide the support his tremendous power required. And look, you're not going to catch me calling Gohan a boring butt plug of a character that could put an insomniac to sleep. That's Dragon Ball Super's Gohan. However, I suspect
Damn.
it's not a character type Toriyama himself is comfortable writing for. Up until now, Akira Toriyama has spent his entire life writing dialogue and stories for easily excitable and energetic characters that take the narrative by the horns. And I think on this occasion, Akira Toriyama found himself in a situation he didn't foresee having an issue with. But unfortunately, unlike Arale, unlike Son Goku, Gohan is one of the most reactive characters I've ever come across. In the very first chapter of this arc, Gohan reacts to the robbers. He reacts to being seen. He reacts to being beckoned into the classroom. He needs to be told to introduce himself, to take an empty seat. He doesn't even choose for himself where to sit. Even when it comes to talking to other characters in school, he very rarely strikes up conversations, remaining demure, usually requiring others to take the initiative in conversation. Where Goku was unabashedly able to be himself throughout the entire series, eventually pushing himself to a point where he could be Super Saiyan at all times without even trying, not caring about what way he looked, Gohan, in a contrasting fashion, is forced by others to quite literally use his Super Saiyan transformation as a mechanism to hide who he truly is. He's not a Super Saiyan.
By the way, I'm pretty
warrior
sure
like his
any
father.
movie did
It's
that
simply
for
a
him.
mask he
They're
wears
probably
to
dead.
afford him the
I'm just saying.
opportunity to do what he feels is right. And honestly, that's one of the most genius visual ideas offered in this arc, I think, perhaps even in the entire series. This is why I suspect Gohan's schoolmates Eraser, Sharpener, and Videl are all confident and outgoing characters who speak their respective minds freely. This is kind of a tangent, but there's a frankly absurdly funny baseball scene in this early school portion too. Gohan plays baseball for what he says is the first time in his life, and hilarious antics ensue no less. And fittingly, all of the comedy seems to stem
It's funny
not
how
from
this comes
Gohan,
back
but
in Super.
Sharpener's brash and boisterous personality meeting the wall that is Son Gohan's athletic ability. Naturally, he wouldn't be able to react this way if it weren't for Son Gohan, but yeah, I just thought it worth mentioning. But of those three characters that Gohan goes to school with, Videl is by far the most assertive. In other words, within this introductory portion of the arc, Videl is the active character, which not only helps to smooth over the pacing, but it makes her dynamic with Gohan exceptionally fun to watch and forces us as readers and viewers to see them as two entities that complement each other exceptionally well. Where her father is a fraud posing as the Grand Protector who saved the world from Cell, right under her nose is literally the one responsible for Cell's defeat, and more than that, just like his good deed stopping those thugs suggests, he actively avoids any and all credit for these performances. All for the exact same reasons he never entertains the idea of stopping in the first place, because he's a good person and feels that this is his responsibility, not something he deserves praise for, but something that he should and ought to do.
Oh, wow. Look at you, Krillin. You've got hair.
And proof I had sex.
Hello.
Aw, what's your
Goodbye,
name?
Krillin Homecoming.
So are we gonna talk about that, or
Talk about what? It's my grandmother's name.
talk about how great it is you can still have children?
Thank you?
You're welcome. Goodbye.
You're right. It is funnier if we act like I don't know.
Told ya.
The strongest in the heavens returns.
That's funny.
While Gohan has presented Toriyama with
That's
unforeseen
very
challenges
funny.
thanks to his passive nature, Videl represents Toriyama's attempted answer to that
Also,
problem, creating a
I've been watching their
perfect complement
commentaries,
to Son Gohan.
so I'm kind of
And let
trying
me
to
tell
see if
ya,
I
she's
notice
a
when they
pretty
do
good
animated
answer, all
stuff
things
and everything.
considered. And because
And
of
I
her,
noticed it
Toriyama
there.
very nearly succeeds in making
It's kind of
this early
funny.
story
Oh,
work
the Team 4-star
because she's
stuff.
one of the most well-conceived of characters from both a personality and mechanical perspective. Remember when I said that Gohan was a protector? Well, Videl is an instigator in every sense of the word. She chases Gohan's alter ego, forces him to act when he otherwise wouldn't, discovers his identity through her own investigation, and is the literal force behind the Tenkaichi Budokai being reintroduced to the story, blackmailing Gohan into joining. Without Videl, there is no tournament, and there is no return of Goku. And so in a sense, she not
I never
only
thought of it that
exists
way.
as a perfect complement to Gohan, but a perfect complement to this very story. By virtue of simply existing within the story, she makes Gohan a far more interesting and compelling character, and interestingly, Gohan in turn makes her that much more interesting too. A key element of Videl's identity is that she's the champion of Earth's daughter, the offspring of a larger-than-life character that casts a shadow so vast, he steals the focus in pretty much every scene he participates within. Because of this, she has grown up in his shadow, often not treated with the respect she so sorely deserves as a fighter. And as a result, unbeknownst to both her and her father, she has long since surpassed him by a considerable margin, though unfortunately no one around her can see it. That is until Gohan steps into her life. Videl is the only one at school that sees Gohan for who he is, and conversely, Gohan is the only one who sees her for who she is. And it's that inverted dynamic that makes these two so interesting. For Gohan, with his father, Goku has literally said that he was better suited to this role than he was. In other words, where Videl's father steals the spotlight from her, Gohan's father relinquished that very spotlight willingly to someone he was happy was better than him. Where Videl is seeking out the respect and acknowledgement of others, Gohan quite literally and specifically tries to avoid it at all costs. Nothing happens randomly in this story apart from that fish, and Videl's challenge put forth to Gohan is no different. And it's made on the back of her discovery that Gohan is the son of a former world champion. In a sense, Gohan represents to Videl the opportunity for her to step out of her father's shadow. And in a way for Gohan, this agreement to participate in the tournament and train with Videl allows him to retain his secret identity. It's a near perfect dynamic that I would have loved to have seen explored further had the story gone a different direction.
Yep.
So then, great Saiyaman, what's your story?
I'm just a small town boy with alien blood looking to make a difference. You?
So Superman.
Agent of justice, cleaning up the city and fighting against the filth that took my mother from me.
So Batman.
Gosh, criminals killed your mom?
Well, no. I actually lost her to the Big C. But the backstory doesn't exactly strike fear into the hearts of criminals.
Yeah, I lost my dad to the Big C too.
Oh, wow, I'm so sorry. Cancer's a bitch, huh?
Oh, no, I thought you meant Cell.
But didn't everyone mysteriously come back after he died?
Not everyone.
Did you say alien?
Who wants to learn how to fly?
In the meantime, however, while Gohan is still at the forefront, Toriyama takes this as an opportunity to start steering the story back into a realm he feels more comfortable writing. Material he very specifically excels at, and that material is training arcs. Of course, by arcs I mean a few chapters, but man, are they an absolute blast to go through. Starting with some of the one-on-one training with Goten, these really serve as our actual introduction to the new member of the Sun family. Somehow an even more carefree and childlike version of Goku, their entire training evokes strong memories of Goku training for the very first time with Krillin and Roshi. The actual training they undergo has that exact same type of approach as well. No complicated techniques or kung fu mantras, just a very simple and concrete idea. Dodge the rocks. And once again, Goten proves how Goku-like he is by completely exceeding Gohan's expectations, punching literal holes through the mountain. As the arc progresses, Goten, and Trunks as well, end up playing increasingly pivotal roles in the events to come, and they are both introduced in very similar ways as the spitting image of their father, at least in terms of character. The training with Videl that focuses on Ki is equally simplistic and fun, to the point of influencing multiple generations to sit in front of their TV and try their best to channel some Ki along with Gohan's instruction. No, it's okay. You don't have to lie. I did it too. We all did.
I did
but
it.
Again, it just speaks to how good Akira
I'm not
Toriyama
ashamed.
is at this fundamental training business. Even something as mundane as learning to fly, a move that has become completely ubiquitous for the past several hundred chapters, is distilled to its core and presented in a way that is just so enthralling to view and read. And the whole ordeal only deepens our relationship with Videl as well as Gohan.
Wait.
What?
So you're this massively powerful, half-human, half-alien super warrior.
I mean, saying that about myself feels a little conceited, but...
What I'm saying is, you can dodge bullets, much less any attack I throw at you.
Well, yeah, honestly. Why do you ask?
No reason.
The 25th Tenkaichi Budokai.
Hold on, I need a moment. I didn't even think about that until... Okay, I'm sorry. I just needed that moment. Holy fuck.
Moment right after Goku arrives at the tournament grounds where he notices how
I didn't even
big
think
and
about that.
Tenkaichi Budokai has become. Having been to the considerably more modest 21st through to the 23rd Tenkaichi Budokais, the latter of which he won, he can see how much more ostentatious everything is now. He even acknowledges the ring itself is bigger, leaving Piccolo to quip that while the ring is indeed bigger, the soul of the place has gotten smaller. This all seems rather innocuous, and really, if you're breezing through the material, this moment is easy to glance over as it doesn't manifest in anything later on. However, I think it really says a lot about the headspace Toriyama was in while writing what he likely planned to be his very last arc. I spent a lot of time talking about how Gohan was eventually shifted out of the main character position by Akira Toriyama, and many might reasonably conclude that that shift began once Goku returned. But I genuinely didn't feel that to be the case while I was reading this. When Goku returns at the Tenkaichi Budokai, it's presented as absolutely special, but it also represents something else: the passage of time, the old and the new. In other words, Goku, our previous main character, feels more like a cameo than a returning character. And moments before Goku makes this triumphant return from the dead and reunites with his friends and family, Mr. Satan makes his presence felt to uproarious applause and adulation. He marches away, feeding into the crowd, and so too do the chorus of his fans follow along. In the manga, we can see the fanfare and crowd dissipate over the horizon before Goku, a true hero of Earth, makes a comparatively much more modest return. To quote Akira Toriyama's narration during the Cell Saga, "The world had forgotten Son Goku." He's not the main character as of yet. Instead, interestingly, he represents what was, and Mr. Satan represents what is. And moreover, this dynamic he offers the story speaks to what is undoubtedly the central theme of this arc, fostering the next generation and ensuring the Earth has a bright future ahead of it, both after Goku as well as after Toriyama puts an end to this tale. And speaking of the future, it's time for the prelim qualifying rounds of the...
10 out of 10 moment.
Okay, I guess it's time for the junior division then.
Literally 10 out of 10 moment.
Goten versus Trunks. It is crazy that outside of the random run-ins with criminals and some loose training sequences, this is the first proper fight in the arc. 13 full chapters, or over 3 months of real time passed by to get to this point. But honestly, I think it's worth the wait because what we got was brilliant. It's still very lighthearted, but with the added rivalry of Goku and Vegeta watching their kids for the very first time, it's a wonderful proxy to add even more tension to the occasion. It's sort of like watching the two old main characters Pokemon battle each other with their own children. However, the fight itself is plenty enjoyable from an artistic standpoint. I think my favorite aspect of it can be seen in its general messaging with the conclusion to the fight.
I just realized he had 8 and 7.
With this in mind, I think it's my favorite fight in the tournament. The general message of the fight, I think, is that for children, the guidance of those they look up to is more important than anyone might realize. Now, I do have my reasons for thinking this to be the message of the fight itself. The first time we hear about Vegeta in this arc is in the context of training his son, Trunks. And the first piece of dialogue he utters is directed towards son Gohan.
Gohan, 体がなまっているぞ。いくら平和だからといっても訓練はしておけ。
This might seem callous or at the very least out of pocket to a regular person, but coming from Vegeta offering advice off the back of training voluntarily with his own son, it might be subtle, but it's clear that the themes and lessons of the previous arc have had their impact on him. The old Vegeta wouldn't have ever dreamt of spending time with his son, let alone training with him. The old Vegeta wouldn't have offered advice to others unless he stood to benefit in some capacity. In this arc, he's an entirely different person, and all of that is communicated in the very first scene he contributes to. Furthermore, with regards to Goten, from the moment he walks out in the juniors division all the way up to the conclusion of this final with Trunks, I love how the youngest of the Sun family is characterized. It's a total contrast to that which Gohan was introduced to the story with. While Gohan was made to be the exact opposite of his father in almost every dimension, as I outlined in the prior arcs, I think there's strong evidence to support the theory that Goten shares a remarkable amount in common with his father. He's childish, incredibly naive, sheltered, and picks up on techniques and abilities remarkably fast. Techniques like flying, Super Saiyan, and the Kamehameha. Most of his arsenal he's learned either from his mom or his older brother that he looks up to a ton. And while Toriyama's panel flow is as strong as
I still
ever,
think it's
boasting
very
more
interesting his
fantastic
mom
layouts
decided
and
to
posing,
train him.
the ending to this fight is by far the most interesting aspect of it. Trunks, the more experienced of the two, in an effort to prove his superiority over Goten in front of his father, offers to not use, in addition to Super Saiyan, his left arm. But Goten uses this as a chance to prove to Trunks that he's more than he ever gave him credit for. Just like his father did in his first tournament, Goten fails to pick up the victory, with his age being the difference maker that cost him against the older Trunks. This is a great way for Goten to lose as a character. Not losing face due to the scrappy nature of the finish,
He did
but
sort
why
of
love
slightly
about it
cheat.
actually has nothing to do with Goten, but instead Vegeta. The wager Trunks made with Goten right here to not use one of his arms mirrors almost exactly the very wager that his own father made with him in the gravity chamber. It's a wholesome moment and one that speaks to how much Trunks looks up to and wants to be like his father, further emphasizing how different Vegeta is and how much better off Trunks is as a child with him in his life. Without Vegeta, Trunks might not have won.
Interesting synopsis.
Dang it, I can't get him out of the ring. I guess that's what I should expect from the son of Kakarot. Baby shark doo-doo-doo-doo-doo, baby shark doo-doo-doo-doo-doo. How about we get a little spicier?
Oh, hey, Gohan.
Okay.
You taught him how to dodge. That's great.
Trunks, pull it up!
Wait, does that mean we can use pew-pews?
Okay, that was a 10 out of 10 moment. I missed Team 4-star stuff.
Dude, you're not even saying it right. It's Kamehameha.
Oh, jeez.
Wait, even if you say it wrong, it still works? Then why say it at all?
Because it sounds cool.
Does it though? Oh, come on, he knows I love him. You know I love you, the great Saiyaman. Seriously though, who put that do-rag on him?
And then, of course, Toriyama can't help but interject some more funny into the tournament, even at its
I want more
first
Sharpner.
climax.
Accurate.
The adult tournament. The beginning of this tournament feels exceptionally strange, and that's not to say that every other tournament before this felt the same or similar by any means. They all gave us unique reasons to hang on every page turn.
Actually, you know what? I'm going to stop it there. This seems like a good place to stop. That he's going through sections, and it's about like a little bit under a minute, so it should be fine. But overall, I'm enjoying this. This is a very interesting dive into the story. Like, he's saying a lot of things that, like, thinking about it, it's like, huh, never thought about it that way. I'm actually curious to see where he thinks Goku's turned back into the main character. I think it's about when they hit Deborah, because that's when, around the time Vegeta takes his turn, and then of course Goku has to take him on and stuff and everything like that. I want to say that is probably around the time things start to take a shift. And if it's not there, then it would be around I want to say Super Buu. I want to say Buhan, maybe. Maybe a little before that. But that's why I would think, like, that's where the shift really went from Gohan's the main character to now Goku is the main character. And reason being is that when they started to do the fights between everybody up until that point, Goku and Vegeta literally destroyed their opponents without question, versus Gohan, who had to struggle and everything and whatnot. I think that's where Toriyama and stuff kind of looked a bit shaky, because he had to have, like, made it interesting, being the fact that Gohan didn't train during all that time. He was still pretty much where he was, and everything else has gotten stronger above him to that point. At least that's my headcanon and whatnot. The Team 4-star stuff is amazing. Like I said, Sharpner is like stealing the show for me right now. And that baby shark one, that caught me off guard so hard. Like, I had to really, like, grab myself before I literally lost it. But yeah, so far, so good. Let me know what you guys think about this. And like I said, I'm going to be breaking this in parts, so there are going to be 2 more parts after this. Possibly during the next couple of days or whatever. We'll have to see. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. If you like this stuff, please hit the like button. Subscribe as we try to hit 500 subscribers by the end of the year. Hopefully we can make it. I believe in us. And if not, I'm just going to keep pushing until we go, you know. You know how it is. Take care. Stay safe. And as always, let's try to kick 2023's ass. Laters.